All right, guys, we're gonna call the meeting to order. If we could all stand up and start with the pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. We're gonna start with meetings from the regular meeting of March 9th. Can I get a motion to accept?
Motion to accept the minutes of March 9th.
Can I get a second? All right, any discussion? All right, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. You vote, Mr. Valente?
I'm sorry, who made the second? Awesome. Dino? And who abstained?
I'm abstaining, I wasn't here. Both was.
Brad wasn't here.
Did you vote yes? Pete? Did you vote yes? All right, Pete and Rich voted yes, 2 abstentions. All right,
You skipped,
I voted yes.
public input and correspondence, but,
I don't have that on my,
you know,
oh,
public input and correspondence?
oh, public input, I'm just going by where you wrote stuff. Oh, do we have any public input? Is anyone here?
No.
Anyone on Zoom?
Anyone?
Kathy, do you have any correspondence that I need to know about? Well, all right, great. So we made it through that part of the meeting. Was that for my age comment? All right, financials, Brad.
All right, so I sent everybody the financials or had Kathy send it. The sewer looks like it's in a big deficit still. I believe the billing should go out in April and that should correct it. I think it's the timing of when we paid one of the Danbury installments too is in there. Otherwise, it's the same stuff that's been over for a while. Otherwise, we're in good shape. I'm trying to figure out, I think it was one of the water ones is over, and has been for a bit. Sorry, I'm just trying to find the account.
Service line maintenance,
Yeah. So,
but like you said, it's been over for a while.
yeah, it only went up $300 over the last month. But it's over and we've known about it for a while. And that's in water. So, other than that, I think we're in good shape.
Does anyone have any questions for Brad while we have him? Do we need to approve that report, Kathy, or not?
Yes, please.
All right, can I have a motion to approve controller's report?
Okay.
Okay, any discussion? All right. Hearing none, all those in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, any? All right, carries. Thank you, Brad. Enjoy the rest of your vacation. Invoices. Do we have any invoices that need to get paid? You want me to read the invoices, Kathy?
I'll make,
I always thought the director tells us what the invoices are that need to get paid. Do we have an explanation of the invoices quick?
is this the 29,000?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion. We approve the $29,949.58 as submitted.
Sorry, you got it.
Any discussion on it?
Same way.
I'll make one comment on the first page of both. There's a balance due showing and payments crossed in the mail, so those are all up to date.
And both those are Wright Pierce bills. those are
Correct.
engineering.
One is for the SCADA project and the bigger one was for the Bergstrom water treatment plant.
All right. Any more discussion on invoicing? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, saying no, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. New business. Nothing. we have a director's report.
Yeah, I have a couple items. I just wanted to update you on, I don't know if you saw anything recently in the newspaper about PFAS. Again,
I was
it's,
just gonna ask you about that.
yeah, so there's a lot of new information coming. So basically, EPA's proposed a primary drinking water rule with an MCL of for 6 of the PFAS chemicals. For 2 of them, they have an MCL of 4 parts per trillion. And what we've sampled Bergstrom when we were running the water, it's been a while now, but we got a 2 parts per trillion hit on one of those items. I had the Maple wells tested probably about a year and a half ago, just to kind of be proactive about it. And we got a hit of 6 parts per trillion on one of those items, and the other was a 4. And now the MCLs they're establishing are 4. Where we were previously, EPA had an action level which was not enforceable, and it was 70 parts per trillion with the combination of 6 different PFAS chemicals. So we were good when we were looking at that. Connecticut also had 70 as their action level. About a year and a half ago, right when I tested, or right prior to that, DPH lowered their action levels and they made a 10 and a 16. So again, we tested, we were 6 and 4, we were below their action levels. So now EPA has jumped in, they're making a rule, it's going to be an enforceable MCL, it's being proposed at 4. So at this point, my plan is to collect some additional samples so we can start to build up some history, so we can be proactive about what we have. We have what we have, so there's no hiding from it. We actually collected samples yesterday, so I'm going to get them to the lab, and by next meeting I'll have some results on that. Basically, what utilities are doing is the same thing. They're being proactive. They're letting their customers know that they're in favor of safe drinking water. They're going to continue to monitor the data and the science as it continues, and they're going to report their numbers. The next thing I'm doing, and I sent it off today, for the drinking water revolving fund, there's going to be a lot of PFAS money. So their call for papers for the next fiscal year for 2024, they were due tomorrow. So I put together an application. It's not a commitment. It's a placeholder. It's to get us in the hopper there. So I put together an eligibility application for DPH to look at and decide that, yes, we would be eligible for funding. So again, I think my approach is going to be proactive, maybe collect some quarterly samples, just so we can kind of build up a history. The likelihood is, if we're getting numbers of like single digit 4, let's say numbers were just 3. If the MCL is 4, I don't know how you can not propose treatment, because you don't know if your next sample is going to be 5. So if we're in that same kind of order of magnitude close to their MCL, that may be the direction we're going to end up going in.
And the treatment is a filtration.
The treatment is either granular activated carbon. So you have, for our size system, they would be like steel tanks with carbon. You run the water through it, it absorbs the PFAS. Once it's spent, then you got to basically 2 things. You either have them haul the carbon away, they'll burn it off in an incinerator, they'll bring it back to you. If you're a small enough quantity, it may not be cost effective for them to do that, and you may just have to dispose of it and get new carbon every time. So until we do more studies and have an idea of, what our numbers are, what our throughput is going to be, then you can start looking at what kind of design, what kind of size. Yeah. If Bergstrom, again, we don't have a well pump in there at this point. So as soon as we're able to drop a pump in there and flow water, I'll want to again proactively grab some samples there.
Should we be looking at the piping for the new system and wondering about T's as opposed to elbows, additional valving? So that we can roll into the next phase?
Yeah, there's room in the building, in Bergstrom you're talking about. There's room in the building for additional tankage. Again, it would need a redesign at that point.
Well, that's what I'm wondering.
We can look at that. I can start talking to Mike Pierce now about, where you'd want to break that off. We probably would run the water through I'm assuming we'd run the water through the green sand filters first. Get the iron and manganese off and then convert it into carbon filters and then run it back, out the building.
I think Dan has a question. I see his hands up. Is that a hand or is that a cursor?
That's.
No, he's got a hand.
Mhm.
Oh,
Wow. All right.
so that's where we stand. If it works well and we don't have to treat at Bergstrom, our maple treatment could be a little smaller. In other words, if you don't need to treat Bergstrom, then what you designed for maple, you won't have to have like twice the amount of room. In other words, if you took one out of service, if you just have the one, you can take it out of service, live without it while you're running Bergstrom. But these numbers that they're proposing are single digit parts per trillion. I think I saw somewhere on one of their sites, a part per trillion is like one drop in 4 Olympic sized swimming pools.
Yes.
Which I don't know if you can even picture that, but.
Why did they drop it so low, 7 to 4?
They've been, I don't have
No, but it's.
the answer. They've been doing epidemiological studies and science and. So, there's a lot of negative health outcomes that are associated. Now, you get all of your PFAS from water?
Right.
Probably not. And what they say is it's in everybody's blood
Right.
anyway. But it's in nonstick cookware, it's in Gore-Tex, it's in anything that's waterproof, stain resistant.
Right.
And they don't break down in the environment, so they're calling them forever chemicals and. They're here to stay. When we did a questionnaire response to DPH a few years ago to see what kind of industry they wanted to know, what do you have in your watershed area? We didn't really identify that we had anything that would have been a PFAS, producer. The foam they use for firefighting, that's a big
All right.
AFF, or I forget exactly the initials, but
Yeah, the AFFF.
right. So there's a lot of sites next to like airports, next to military installations. So I think Bethel, I don't think there was any real producers, any big industry, but still, it's when you can measure it down to those levels, they're finding it.
Yep, yeah, the analytical has driven a lot of this.
Yeah. So maybe there'll be pushback when, there's a comment period right now on the rule. I think it's a 60-day comment period. Whether or not comments are going to say, hey, why is it so low? Should it be 10 or 20 or something different? The other side is going to be wanting to hold it at the 4. Some saying it should be 0, but so we don't know where it's going to fall out at this point, but when they finalize it, utilities will have like a 3-year period to come into compliance. So more to come, of course, but that's the news at this point.
Do you have any other good news to share with us?
I have no other good news like that, that's for sure. Any other questions or, okay? Lead and copper, just a brief, our inventory is due, that's still, I know that's coming, trying to do what we can to kind of do it in-house. One of my thoughts is to, I know people are able to kind of identify their own services. You can do a scratch test, put a magnet on it, the magnet's not gonna stick. So I'm gonna try to maybe do something where we send it out to customers. We won't get everyone to respond, but at least I can start getting, the more information I can get and rule out that we have non-lead, then that's that many less that we have to do further investigations on. Chestnut Ridge Reservoir, I'll let Kelly get into some of the details, but we did have an issue up at the reservoir. There's a causeway that splits the reservoir in half. There's been a lot of beaver activity. The upstream side of that causeway is like right up at the top of the causeway, and actually water was bleeding through the top of it, so it looked like there was some erosion going on. So we worked a little bit with the highway department and we came up with a scheme to be able to release water from the downstream side to then enable us to let the water, open it up and let the water travel back and forth, but I'll let Kelly get into some of those details. And my last item, flow meters for sewer pump stations. There's a few that we've got to replace. I got in touch with a company. They do all the metering for Aquarian throughout their whole like New England system. It's a clamp on meter. And this one in particular is compatible with future SCADA. So I had a couple of demos run on our Plum Trees station. And also, as we speak, I still have the demo set up at Clark Park too, or the station we're gonna rebuild. He's coming tomorrow to pick it up. So far, so good. It looks like the data, you got down to kind of 0 reads when there's no flow. So it looks like it's pretty accurate. So my plan is to probably use that, buy one of those meters for Clark Park. And then kind of develop a little bit of knowledge on, hey, we like it, or, to go forward with replacing other meters. That's all I had.
I happened to drive by Ferguson property the other day. There was a bunch of people down there. and
Yeah. I mean,
anything going on there.
I can just roll into capital projects.
Oh,
Bergstrom, yes, the surveyors were on site yesterday. They're staking out the control points and the limits of construction. So that's good. I think the tree guy was there also, and I think he's gonna get started pretty soon, taking out the trees where they're gonna have to build the building. The submittal process is still going back, on between Kovacs and Wright Pierce, and, we're trying to turn them around quick. Kovacs is trying to get the big items that are long lead time items going initially so that we can get them squared away. So, you'll probably start to see a little bit more progress there starting now. The sewer rehab project for the railroad easement. They had a change in personnel for Green Mountain. That's the company. Remember, we gave them an extension just to let the ground start to dry up, and the ground's looking a lot better now. So they got their project manager in place. He's given us submittals to Weston and Sampson. We're setting up a construction pre-con meeting in a couple of weeks, and he's got to get his railroad training. So that project will start getting going too. And then last, the Clark Park Station rebuild. We've had good progress there. The pump panels installed. They tacked it onto the existing electrical panel. New conduits for the pumps and controls. We poured a new slab over it. So it looks good. It looks pretty new. The next thing is we got to coordinate with Blake to get the pumps, the rails, and the controls in place. That should happen pretty soon, probably I would think in the next couple of weeks. We got the flow meter demo, so I'll probably follow through with that, getting a meter for it. And then the generator and transfer switch, we're still probably like 8 weeks out, according to their, schedule that he gave me 4 weeks ago. So hopefully that's still the case. So we should hopefully get it all in by the end of the year, by the end of June.
Copper Square, they're doing a lot of work out there.
Okay,
They're putting a lot of sewer lines in and stuff like that.
yep,
They got their own engineer out there checking it?
they do, and we're gonna too. He's gonna let us know when there's stuff to look at for sure.
Yeah, because all the manholes are in place now. There's a lot of them.
Okay,
They're gonna have to vacuum test. them,
correct.
too.
And the lines,
They're gonna have to let you know when they're ready to do that.
that's correct.
Okay, no problem.
And I've communicated with them, they know that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there's gonna be like, that one building they're working on is like their main residential building. There's 2 smaller residentials, and then there's gonna be 2 commercials out in front.
Right.
So right now, they're just kind of working on the,
It's big.
Right.
Alright.
Anything else to report?
that's it for me.
All right. Last but not least, our utility supervisor.
Well, on the water side, I've got a small service leak. I think it's a service leak up on Spring Hill over at the cul-de-sac. Got somebody coming in next week. I had somebody come in and pinpoint it. Because the whole area is wet, but our numbers aren't real high. We're up about 5,000 a day. So they're coming in next week to take care of that. Been working right along on all the MIUs. We got all the town buildings taken care of, plus more. Chestnut Ridge is, as Tom was saying, that upper reservoir, the one that you can see from Chestnut. It's probably up about 3 feet. The beavers have been in there for years, just keep on building it up. If we break it down, they build it up. Within a day, they're back in there. But it's getting to the point where the water is going over it. So Bobby Dibble went up there with his crew. He had to bring in Tommy Kane, somebody with a small machine to go back and forth across the causeway. They put riprap. They had to do the road getting down to it and the riprap going across. And then they put some smaller stone on it, so walking is better, but they raised it up about 6 inches, and within a week, the beavers are already throwing mud up on the edge. Trying to get it to block the pipe. The pipe that goes under it right now is plugged solid. As soon as the beavers hear it, they plug it up. So what we're trying to do, we're trying to get the big reservoir, the front reservoir up against the dam. We're trying to get that down. We put a bypass in the plant. There's a valve there that is probably over 100 years old, coming off the reservoir itself, and I don't want to touch it because I'm afraid it's not going to close again. So we found a way to tap into a line that goes into the wet well. And before it goes through the filters, we can take it right off the bottom. And we're pumping probably about maybe 350 gallons a minute out. We've been watching all the brooks, all the way down the hill, all the ponds that are on Long Meadow. And once we got it down below the actual spillway, the dam, it's a lot better. We're maintaining with 350 gallons a minute. We're dropping about, I think is it about 0.8 of an inch a day?
I think we dropped it about 2 inches in the 3 days, give or take, so. I'm guessing about a month, we might be able to drop it a foot.
So we're not looking at, it's not gonna be a drastic drop, but you can't do it because the beavers have done so much down on 53. By the railroad tracks. We have to, we found a happy medium that it'll take it and it won't flood the road. So again, we got a 6-inch line running right into the brook there. It's filled up the 2 ponds or the 3 ponds that are along Long Meadow, but it's handling it all the way down to 53. I've walked the area to make sure. On the sewer side, the guys have been cleaning up the plants. Monthly PM has been done on everything. Quarterly cleaning was just done last month on the problem stations that have a lot of grease and what have you hooked up. We did have an issue with a seal fail on one of the pumps at Berkshire. So we pulled that out, and that was one of the stations we have a spare pump in. So we pulled one out, sent it out to be resealed, and then dropped the other one in. So we didn't lose any time on that. And the last thing we got going right now is Bobby's getting ready to start paving. So I ordered some frames for the sewer manholes and the water risers for the water. They're going to start. I think he's starting next week over on Fleetwood to get that done. It's really only about 20 manholes, but I just want to make sure I have stock. I got a stock of stuff just in case something goes bad. But other than that, we're plugging along.
All right, any questions? Hearing no questions, I'm looking for a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
I have a second.
Second.
We're adjourned. Good job, man.